I knocked on room 447 of the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel at 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve, with a manila envelope in one hand and a process server waiting in the hallway behind me. My wife's moans were still audible through the door. "If you've got some time and maybe something strong to drink, settle in, because what started as the worst night of my life turned into something else entirely, and I'm going to tell you exactly how a decade of marriage, a 6-year-old daughter, and what I thought was a pretty damn good life all went up in flames in the span of 3 weeks. So why did I wait 2 full weeks after discovering the affair before I knocked on that hotel door? Because rage is useless without a plan. And I had a very, very detailed plan. Let me back up. 10 years ago, I thought I'd won the lottery. I was finishing my residency in anesthesiology, drowning in student debt, working 80-hour weeks at a hospital in Orange County. Olivia Harrison walked into a fundraiser gala my hospital was hosting. MBA from USC, worked in marketing, had this confidence that just radiated off her. She was the kind of woman who knew exactly what wine to order, who could talk to anyone in the room, who made you feel like the most interesting person alive when she focused on you. We got married 18 months later. Looking back, maybe that should have been a red flag. How fast everything moved. But I was 28, in love and stupid. Or maybe just the last two. For the first few years it was good. Really good. Better than good, honestly. We'd wake up early on Saturdays, drive down to the farmer's market in San Clemente, buy fresh flowers and artisan bread, and those ridiculously overpriced organic strawberries Olivia loved. We'd come home, make breakfast, spend the afternoon at the beach. She'd read novels while I caught up on medical journals. We'd talk about the future. Kids, travel, maybe getting a dog someday. She supported my career through the brutal residency years, brought me dinner when I was on 36-hour shifts, let me vent about attending physicians and impossible patients, celebrated every milestone. When I got my attending position at the hospital, she threw a surprise party, invited my whole family, made this elaborate speech about how proud she was. I supported hers too, or I thought I did. She talked about building her consulting business, about wanting to be her own boss, about having flexibility for when we had kids. It made sense to me. She was smart, ambitious. Why wouldn't she succeed? We bought the house in Laguna Niguel when I was 30. 1,200 square feet felt massive at the time, though now I realize it was modest for the neighborhood. One of those coastal communities where everyone drives a Tesla and has a golden retriever and posts about their gratitude practice on Instagram. But we loved it. Painted the kitchen ourselves, spent weekends picking out furniture, built a life. Emily came when I was 32. The pregnancy was easy. The birth was textbook. I watched my wife become a mother and felt this overwhelming sense of rightness. This is it, I thought. This is what I've been working toward. Olivia was incredible with Emily those first few months. Up all night, patient through the crying, somehow managing to keep the house running while I was at work. She took 6 months off, then gradually started working again. Or said she did. Looking back, I have no idea what she was actually doing. During those hours, she said she had client calls. That's the phrase that should have tipped me off. Her consulting business. It was always vague. She'd tell me she was working with local companies on marketing strategy, building their digital presence, that kind of thing. I'd ask questions, what companies, what projects, and she'd wave it off. "It's boring, Nathan. Let's talk about your day." And like an idiot, I'd let it drop. I was working 60-hour weeks at the hospital, managing a team, dealing with life and death situations daily. I came home exhausted. I trusted her to handle her world, while I handled mine. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew my own life. The cracks started forming around year 5. Our sex life basically evaporated. She was always tired, always stressed, always had a headache or an early morning, or just wasn't in the mood. I tried everything. Date nights, couples massage, weekend getaways. Nothing worked. She'd smile, kiss my cheek and say, "Soon, babe, I promise." Soon never came. Then, there were the business trips. 2, sometimes 3 times a month, she'd pack a bag and head to San Diego or San Francisco or Los Angeles for client meetings. Sometimes she'd be gone overnight, sometimes 2 nights. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was building her career. I was proud of her. Around year 7, I started noticing she was on her phone constantly, texting during dinner, stepping into another room to take calls, sleeping with it face down on the nightstand. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd say clients or her sister or her friend Amanda. Always had an answer. Never defensive, never angry, just matter of fact. That's what made it so believable. Last Thanksgiving, something shifted. We were at my parents' house in Newport Beach with my brother Michael and his family. Olivia spent the entire meal, glued to her phone, smiling at the screen. My mom finally asked if everything was okay. Olivia looked up, still smiling, and said, "Just a client emergency. Sorry." But the smile didn't match the words. It was too bright, too performative. That night, as we drove home with Emily asleep in the back seat, I asked her about it. "What client has emergencies on Thanksgiving?" She turned to me, and for a split second I saw something in her eyes. Irritation, maybe, or calculation. Then it was gone. "Nathan, you're being paranoid. It was just work. Can we drop it?" I dropped it. I should have seen it then. But I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I just wasn't ready to face it yet. That was the last normal Thanksgiving we'd ever have as a family. December started like any other month. Emily was excited about Christmas, talking non-stop about Santa and cookies and whether the tree would be real or fake this year. I was buried in end-of-year hospital paperwork, inventory, budgets. Olivia was busy with her usual routine. Gym in the morning, client calls during the day, volunteer work at Emily's school, twice a week. On December 10th, I came home early. Rare day off, surgery schedule light. I figured I'd surprise them. Emily was at school. Olivia was at some PTA meeting. The house was empty and quiet. I decided to do something productive. Laundry. Olivia usually handled it, but I figured I'd help out. I grabbed her gym bag from the closet, unzipped it to toss stuff in the wash. The bag tipped over, and a phone fell out. Not her iPhone, a cheap flip phone, the kind you buy at a convenience store with prepaid minutes, the kind you use when you don't want someone tracking you. My hands were shaking when I picked it up. Part of me wanted to just put it back, zip up the bag, pretend I never saw it. But I couldn't. I turned it on. 63 text messages, all from a contact saved as just G. I read them all, every single one. They went back months. "Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? Tell him you have a work thing. You're so fucking beautiful." And then, dated 3 days ago. "Can't wait for Christmas Eve, baby. 2 nights at the Ritz, just us. It's going to be perfect." I sat on the edge of the bed for maybe 20 minutes, just staring at the phone. My brain was trying to process, to rationalize, to find some explanation that wasn't what it obviously was. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe she was helping a friend with something. Maybe I was misunderstanding. But I wasn't. I knew exactly what this was. I heard the garage door open. She was home. I shoved the phone back in the gym bag, zipped it up, threw it back in the closet. When she walked into the bedroom, I was sitting on the bed, trying to look normal. "Hey, babe," she said, smiling. "Didn't expect you home early." I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I realized I had no idea who she was. "Yeah," I managed. "Slow day." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her, watching her breathe, wondering how long she'd been lying to me. Weeks, months, years. Every memory I had of our marriage suddenly felt like a crime scene I was examining for evidence. I didn't confront her. I know that probably sounds crazy. But here's the thing about being an anesthesiologist. You learn to stay calm in crisis. You learn to assess, to gather data, to plan your next move before you act. Emotional reactions get people killed in my line of work. So, I started investigating. The next morning, after she left for yoga, I went through our bank statements. She handled all the finances, paid the bills, managed the accounts, filed our taxes. I'd signed off on everything without really looking. Big mistake. I found a credit card I didn't recognize. Chase Sapphire, in her name only. $47,000 in charges. Hotels, the Ritz-Carlton, the Montage, the resort at Pelican Hill. Restaurants I'd never been to. Gifts from jewelry stores, charges at lingerie boutiques, all on dates that aligned perfectly with her business trips. I pulled up our joint checking account. For the past 18 months, there'd been monthly transfers of $2,500 to an account I didn't have access to. When I tried to look it up, it was blocked. Her name only. She'd stolen $45,000 from us, from me, from Emily's college fund. I sat at my desk in my home office at 2 a.m, spreadsheets open on my laptop, and felt something in me break. Not break like shatter, break like a bone setting wrong and then having to be rebroken to heal properly. It was the understanding that my entire life was a lie. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd built a home with, the mother of my child. I'd never actually known her. On December 15th, I called a private investigator. My brother Michael had used one during his divorce 3 years ago. Her name was Karen, she was ex-FBI, and she was discreet. We met at a coffee shop in Costa Mesa, 40 minutes from home. I showed her the burner phone photos, the credit card statements, the bank transfers. She listened, took notes, didn't show any judgment. When I was done, she looked at me and said, "This won't be pleasant, but you need to know." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm here." She asked me what I wanted. Did I want to know who the guy was, how long it had been going on, where they met? Everything? I told her everything. "I'll need 10 days, she said. Maybe less. She's already sloppy. The burner phone, the credit card. Amateurs always make it easy. For the next week, I lived a double life. I woke up, kissed my wife good morning, made breakfast for Emily, drove to work. I smiled at colleagues, performed surgeries, saved lives. I had a particularly complex case that week, a woman with a ruptured aneurysm, touch and go for 4 hours. I kept her stable, brought her through, and her family hugged me in the waiting room afterward, crying with relief. And the whole time, I was thinking about that burner phone, about those text messages, about how Olivia had kissed me goodbye that morning, like nothing was wrong. Then I came home, helped with homework, did bath time, read bedtime stories. Emily's current favorite was Where the Wild Things Are. Every night she'd ask me to read it in different voices. I'd do the monsters growly and deep, and she'd laugh until she got the hiccups. I sat on the couch next to Olivia and watched Netflix, some baking competition show she liked. I said, "I love you," when she went to bed. She'd smile, kiss my cheek, say it back, and the entire time, I was screaming inside. Karen called me with updates every few days. She'd followed Olivia to client meetings that were actually lunch dates with Garrett, to the gym where they'd meet in the parking lot and sit in his car for 20 minutes before going inside separately, to a jewelry store where Garrett bought her a bracelet. Karen got photos of them laughing at the counter, him fastening it on her wrist. The bracelet. I'd noticed it a week ago. Olivia said she'd bought it for herself, a reward for landing a big client. I'd believed her without question. Every discovery was a gut punch. But I kept my face neutral, my routine normal. I had to. If she suspected I knew, she'd destroy evidence. She'd drain accounts I hadn't found yet. She'd lawyer up and make this harder than it already was. On December 20th, Karen sent me her full report. 47 pages of surveillance logs, photos, bank records, evidence. I read it in my car during my lunch break, sitting in the hospital parking garage. They'd been meeting at hotels every 2 to 3 weeks for at least 2 years, always high-end places, the Ritz, the Montage, resort at Pelican Hill. She had a routine. She'd tell me she was traveling for work, book a hotel room for 2 nights, then spend those nights with Garrett. Sometimes they'd venture out. Nice dinners at restaurants in Newport or Laguna. Walks on the beach, shopping. Karen had traced the financial web. The credit card in Olivia's name had been opened 3 years ago. The monthly transfers to her secret account started 18 months ago. But there were cash withdrawals going back even further. Scattered, irregular, but adding up. Best Karen could tell, the affair had been going on for at least 30 months, maybe longer. 30 months, 2.5 years. While I was working 70-hour weeks to provide for our family, she was building a completely separate life. On December 20th, Karen called. His name is Garrett Hayes, 42 years old, real estate developer, lives in Laguna Beach, married, 2 teenage sons, net worth approximately $8 million. He and your wife have been meeting at hotels for at least 2 years, possibly longer. 2 years. 2 years of lies, of betrayal, of her coming home and kissing Emily goodnight after spending the day in bed with someone else. There's more, Karen said. I looked into her consulting business. Meridian Consulting Group doesn't exist. The website is a shell, no functional contact forms, no real client list. Her LinkedIn profile claims she's a senior VP. I called the number on the site, disconnected. I checked California Business Registry, no record of the company. Her entire career is fake, I said slowly. Yes. Best I can tell, she hasn't had a real job in at least 5 years, maybe longer. She's been living off your income and whatever Hayes gives her. I closed my eyes. What about Christmas Eve? She's booked at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel. Room 447. Check-in is 3 p.m. on the 24th. Check-out is noon on the 26th. Hayes is booked in the same room. 2 nights, while I was supposed to be home with Emily, playing Santa, building memories. I need you to do something else, I said. Find Hayes' wife. Get me her contact information. Karen paused. You sure you want to go there? I'm sure. 24 hours later, I was sitting across from Sarah Hayes at a Starbucks in Irvine. She was 43, blonde, looked like she'd been crying for days even though she'd just found out an hour ago. I'd asked Karen to contact her, arrange the meeting, and prepare her. Sarah had no idea her husband was cheating. None. How long? She asked, her voice shaking. 2 years minimum, I said. Probably longer. She started crying. I handed her napkins. We sat there in silence for a while. 2 strangers bonded by betrayal. What are you going to do? She finally asked. I told her my plan. She listened, eyes widening. When I was done, she was quiet for a long moment. I'm in, she said. Over the next 3 days, I built an evidence binder. Photos from Karen's surveillance. Timestamps, locations, Olivia and Garrett entering hotels together. Bank statements with every suspicious charge highlighted in yellow. Screenshots of the burner phone texts. Printouts of the fake LinkedIn profile, next to proof the company didn't exist. A timeline of every business trip for the past 2 years, cross-referenced with hotel bookings. My brother Michael came over on December 23rd, while Olivia was out. He looked through the binder and whistled low. You're going nuclear, he said. She destroyed a decade of my life, I said. She stole from our daughter's future. She deserves every bit of what's coming. Michael nodded slowly. What about Emily? Emily's staying with Mom and Dad tomorrow. She won't see any of this. And after? I looked at him. After, I get custody. I get our assets. And I make sure everyone knows exactly what she is. He gripped my shoulder. I'm with you, brother. Whatever you need. On Christmas Eve, Olivia kissed Emily goodbye at 10 in the morning. Mommy has a work emergency, sweetie, but I'll be back tomorrow night and we'll open presents together, okay? Emily, 6 years old and trusting, hugged her. Okay, Mommy, I love you. I love you too, baby. I watched this. I watched my wife lie to our daughter's face without a flicker of hesitation, and whatever part of me had still hoped for an explanation, for a misunderstanding, died right there. After Olivia left, I packed Emily's overnight bag and drove her to my parents' house in Newport Beach. My mom had tears in her eyes when she opened the door. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. I spent the afternoon with my lawyer, Tom, finalizing paperwork. Divorce petition, requesting full physical custody, citing financial fraud and adultery, emergency restraining order on all joint accounts. At 4 p.m., we filed everything with the court. At 5 p.m., I called the process server I'd hired and confirmed the plan. At 6 p.m., I invited both families to my house. I told Olivia's parents and sister that we were having a surprise New Year's party for Emily. I told my parents and Michael the truth. By 7 p.m., everyone was in my living room. Olivia's mom, Susan, kept asking where Olivia was. I told her we'd get to that. At 7:15, I turned on the TV and connected my laptop. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I need to show you something." I started the slideshow. The first photo was Olivia and Garrett entering the montage on September 23rd. Timestamp in the corner. Their arms around each other. Olivia's mother gasped. Her father, Robert, stood up. "What the hell is this?" "That's your daughter with Garrett Hayes," I said calmly. "That's September. Here's October. Here's November." I clicked through 12 photos. Different hotels. Same two people. Same intimacy. "Here are the text messages from her burner phone," I said, and read 3 out loud. The explicit ones. Susan was crying now. Robert's face was bright red. Olivia's sister Rachel had her hand over her mouth. "Here's the credit card statement. $47,000 in charges I didn't know about. Here's the bank account she opened in her name only, funded with $2,500 a month from our joint checking. Here's her fake LinkedIn profile, claiming she works for Meridian Consulting Group." I pulled up the California Business Registry. "Here's proof that company doesn't exist. Your daughter hasn't had a real job in years. She's been living off me while fucking a married real estate developer." The room exploded. Susan was sobbing. Robert was shouting, at me, at the TV, at nothing. Rachel was just staring. My mom tried to calm everyone down. Michael stood next to me. Solid presence. "Where is she?" Robert demanded. "Where's Olivia right now?" I checked my watch. Right now she's at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel, room 447. She checked in at 3. She told me she was staying at her friend Amanda's tonight. Susan grabbed her phone. She called Olivia. Speaker mode. It rang 4 times. Then, "Hi, Mom. Can I call you back? I'm kind of in the middle of something." Muffled laughter in the background. Male voice. "Where are you?" Susan asked. Voice tight. "I'm at Amanda's. We're watching movies." "No, you're not," Susan said. "Where are you really?" Pause. "Mom, what's going on?" I took the phone. "Hi, Olivia. It's Nathan. You're at the Ritz-Carlton Dana Point, room 447 with Garrett Hayes. You've been there since 3 p.m. You lied to our daughter this morning. You lied to your mother just now. And you've been lying to me for at least 2 years. Silence. Long, frozen silence. Then, "Nathan, wait, let me explain." "You can explain to the process server when you get home," I said. "Divorce papers are filed. You'll be served first thing tomorrow morning. Merry Christmas." I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing. Her name on the screen. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. Declined. Robert sank onto the couch, head in his hands. Susan was openly weeping. Rachel walked over to me. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "I should have known. I should have seen something." "It's not your fault," I said, and I meant it. Olivia had fooled everyone. My dad spoke up for the first time. "What do you need from us, son?" Help me protect Emily, I said. That's all that matters now. While this was happening, Sarah Hayes was at her house executing her own confrontation. She'd gathered Garrett's parents, showed them the same evidence, made the same reveals. Garrett's phone had been blowing up for the past hour. His father, a pillar of the Laguna Beach community, was apparently destroying him. By 11 p.m., Olivia had 47 missed calls and a string of desperate voicemails. I didn't listen to a single one. I was done. At 11:30, I drove to the Ritz-Carlton. I'd had Karen book the room next door to 404-7, room 404-9. I'd asked the process server to meet me in the lobby at 11:45. I knocked on room 404-7 at exactly 11:47 p.m. Through the door, I could hear music, laughter, her voice. "Who the hell is that?" Garrett's voice. "Probably hotel staff. Ignore it." I knocked again, harder. "Jesus," Garrett muttered, footsteps approaching the door. "Yes?" "Process server for Olivia Harrison Cross," I said loudly. "Open the door, please." Scrambling inside, whispered panic. 30 seconds later, the door cracked open. Garrett stood there in a hotel robe, face pale. "She's not," he started. "Olivia Ann Harrison Cross," the process server said, stepping forward. "I need to serve you legal documents." Behind Garrett, I could see Olivia in the bed, sheet pulled up, eyes wide with terror. The process server pushed past Garrett and handed Olivia the envelope. "You've been served. Dissolution of marriage. Have a nice evening." She turned and walked away. Garrett stood frozen. I looked past him at Olivia. "I know everything," I said quietly. "The fake job, the stolen money, all of it. You're done." I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard Olivia screaming my name. I didn't look back. I slept better that night than I had in 2 weeks. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Olivia showed up at the house the next morning, Christmas Day, at 7 a.m. I'd changed the locks the night before. She pounded on the door, screaming, sobbing. I watched through the window, coffee cup in hand, feeling nothing. The neighbors came out to watch. Mrs. Patterson from 2 doors down, always the neighborhood busybody, stood on her lawn with her phone out, filming. The video would be on our neighborhood Facebook group within an hour. Nathan, please let me in, let me explain." Olivia's voice was hoarse, desperate. I called the police, showed them the restraining order Tom had filed the day before. They escorted her off the property. She went quietly, sobbing into her hands. She called 63 times on Christmas Day. I counted, blocked her number after the 20th call. She tried to email, long rambling messages about how I was misunderstanding everything, how Garrett had pursued her, how she'd made a mistake. But we could fix this. I filtered her to spam. On December 26th, she showed up at the hospital. Security caught her in the parking garage, trying to wait by my car. The head of security, Marcus, called me. "Dr. Cross, we've got a situation." By the time I got down there, she was in his office, still crying. "I just need to talk to him," she was saying. "Please, just 5 minutes." Marcus looked at me. I shook my head. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Marcus said gently. "If you come back, we'll have to call the police." She looked at me then. Her eyes were swollen, mascara smeared. "Nathan, please don't do this. Think about Emily." That's what got me. The audacity of using our daughter's name. I stepped forward. "I am thinking about Emily," I said quietly. "That's all I'm thinking about. You should have thought about her before you fucked another man for 2 years. Her face crumpled. Marcus escorted her out. Emily was at my brother's house through all of this. I FaceTimed with her twice on Christmas, kept it normal, cheerful. She was having fun with her cousins, barely noticed I wasn't there. Michael's wife had them making gingerbread houses, icing everywhere, chaos in the best way. "When's mommy coming?" Emily asked during the second call. Soon, baby, I lied. She's dealing with some grown-up stuff. Is she sick? Sort of, but don't worry about it, okay? Just have fun with your cousins. After I hung up, I sat in my empty house and cried for the first time since this started. Not for Olivia, for Emily, for the childhood I couldn't protect her from losing. On December 27th, Olivia's parents came to see me. They looked destroyed. Robert had always been this strong, commanding presence. Former banker, always in control. Now he looked 10 years older, shoulders slumped. Susan had been crying so much her eyes were swollen almost shut. She hugged me when I opened the door, and I let her. We sat in the living room, the same room where 3 days ago I'd shown them evidence of their daughter's lies. We didn't know, Robert said. Nathan, I swear to God, we had no idea. If we'd known— I know, I said. This isn't your fault. She called us, Susan said, 50 times yesterday. We didn't answer. I don't know what to say to her. We told her she's not welcome at our house, Robert said. Not until she gets her life together. Not until she makes this right. I nodded, appreciated it. They didn't have to take my side. She was their daughter, but they were decent people, and what she'd done was indefensible. Can she see Emily? Susan asked, voice breaking. Please, Nathan. We know you're angry and you have every right to be. But Emily's our granddaughter. She needs her mother. Supervised visitation, I said. Once the court approves it, not before. I need to make sure Emily's safe. Safe from Olivia? Robert asked. Safe from the chaos, I said. From whatever's going to happen next. Emily didn't ask for any of this. I'm not going to let her get caught in the middle. They left an hour later. Susan hugged me again at the door. You're a good man, Nathan. Emily's lucky to have you. On January 2nd, Olivia tried to withdraw money from our joint checking. The account was frozen. She tried to use the credit cards, all canceled. She showed up at Tom's office, my lawyer, begging for access to funds. I don't have any money, she told him. I can't pay rent, I can't buy food. Tom, professional to his core, told her to get her own lawyer. Gave her a list of legal aid resources. She left sobbing. She was staying with Garrett at that point. At the condo he'd been renting as their affair nest. A one-bedroom in Santa Ana, nothing fancy. Karen had gotten photos of her moving boxes in on December 30th. But that situation imploded within a week. Sarah Hayes' divorce was brutal. She had better lawyers, family money, connections. They went after Garrett hard. His partners at his real estate firm found out about the affair. They couldn't fire him. He was a partner, owned equity. But they made his life hell. Forced him to take a voluntary leave of absence. Put him on notice that his behavior was being reviewed for ethics violations. His teenage sons, 15 and 17, refused to talk to him. Changed their phone numbers. His older son posted something on Instagram. My father is a liar and a cheat. I hope I never become the kind of man he is. Garrett's father, prominent in the Laguna Beach community, wealthy developer himself, publicly disowned him. Took out an ad in the local newspaper, literally an ad, saying he was cutting his son off financially and morally. Garrett took it all out on Olivia. They fought constantly. Neighbors complained about the noise. Karen got reports from her contacts, screaming matches at 2 a.m., Olivia crying in the parking lot, Garrett saying he wished he'd never met her. On January 7th, he kicked her out. She called Rachel, crying, saying he'd blamed her for everything, for his divorce, for his kids hating him, for his father's disowning him. Rachel, to her credit, didn't take Olivia's side. You did this to yourself, she told her sister. Don't call me again until you're ready to take responsibility. Olivia moved into a cheap apartment in Santa Ana. Studio, maybe 400 square feet, in a building with a broken elevator and peeling paint. Got a job at Target, minimum wage, entry-level retail, all she could get with no real work history. Everything she'd built, the image, the lifestyle, the lies, gone in 3 weeks. The custody hearing was on January 28th. I showed up with Tom and my evidence binder. Olivia showed up with a court-appointed attorney, looking exhausted. The judge reviewed everything: the affair, the financial fraud, the fake career, the burner phone, the psychological evaluation I'd requested, showed Olivia with depression, anxiety, and poor impulse control. The judge granted me primary physical custody, 85%. Olivia got supervised visitation twice a month, 3 hours each time. She had to complete a parenting course and ongoing therapy. When the judge read the ruling, Olivia collapsed in sobs. Her lawyer had to help her out of the courtroom. I felt something. Not quite satisfaction, not quite pity, maybe just tired. I picked up Emily from school that day and told her we were going out for ice cream. We sat in the shop and I explained in 6-year-old terms that Mommy and Daddy weren't going to be married anymore. That Mommy had made some choices that hurt people, but it wasn't Emily's fault. That we both loved her, always would, and nothing would change that. She cried, I held her, and I hated Olivia more in that moment than I ever had before. Because she'd forced me to break our daughter's heart, but kids are resilient. Over the next few months, we found our rhythm. I cut my hospital hours back, worked 4 days a week instead of 6, hired a nanny for after-school care, started a routine, breakfast together every morning, bedtime stories every night, park on Saturdays, church with my parents on Sundays. Emily started seeing a child therapist, Dr. Martinez, who specialized in divorce. She drew pictures, talked about her feelings, learned that it was okay to love both her parents even though they weren't together. I saw a therapist too, Dr. Patel, twice a week at first, then once a week. His office was in a quiet building in Costa Mesa, decorated in calming blues and grays. We talked about trust issues, hypervigilance, the way I now scrutinized every interaction with suspicion. You're showing symptoms of complex trauma, he said during our 3rd session. Betrayal trauma specifically. Your reality was systematically undermined for years. It's normal to question everything now. It doesn't feel normal, I said. It feels exhausting. I catch myself analyzing every conversation, looking for lies, expecting the worst. That's your brain trying to protect you, he said. It's learned that trust is dangerous. It'll take time to recalibrate. How much time? He smiled sadly. There's no timeline for this, Nathan, but I can tell you, staying guarded forever isn't living, that's surviving. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear that. Surviving felt safer. Living meant risking being hurt again. We worked on it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, processing the trauma, learning to separate past from present. Some days were better than others. Some days I'd catch myself smiling at something Emily said and realize I hadn't thought about Olivia all morning. Other days I'd see a woman with blonde hair at the grocery store and my stomach would drop, thinking it was her. Dr. Patel taught me grounding techniques. When the anxiety got bad, I'd name 5 things I could see, 4 I could touch, 3 I could hear. Sounds stupid, but it helped. Brought me back to the present instead of spiraling into what-ifs and should-haves. I sold the house in March. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Bought a smaller place in Newport Beach. Closer to my parents. Closer to the water. 3 bedrooms, 1 for me, 1 for Emily, 1 for guests. The kitchen overlooked the ocean. Emily loved it immediately. Olivia got her supervised visitations. Twice a month, she'd show up at a family services center, spend 3 hours with Emily under the watchful eye of a social worker. Emily would come home quiet, sometimes sad, sometimes confused. I'd let her talk about it if she wanted, or we'd just make popcorn and watch a movie. Olivia tried to apologize through email. Long rambling messages about how she'd been lost, how Garrett had manipulated her, how she'd made mistakes but still loved me, loved Emily, wanted another chance. I never responded. There was nothing to say. She'd made her choices. These were the consequences. In April, I ran into Sarah Hayes at Whole Foods. We talked for a few minutes in the produce aisle. Her divorce had finalized. Garrett had moved to Texas, some town outside Austin, trying to rebuild his reputation. Her sons were in therapy, slowly forgiving her for not protecting them from their father's selfishness. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Better," I said. "Some days." She nodded. "Same." We exchanged numbers, agreed to meet for coffee sometime. Not romantic, just two people who'd survived the same war. By May, I realized I was sleeping through the night again, not thinking about Olivia every waking moment, not checking Emily's phone to make sure Olivia wasn't contacting her inappropriately. I was just living. At the hospital, a pediatric nurse named Claire started bringing me coffee during my breaks. She was 34, kind, funny in a dry way that made me laugh. She knew my story. Everyone at the hospital did. Gossip travels fast. But she never brought it up. One day in late spring, she asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. I hesitated. The thought of dating, of trusting someone new, of risking that kind of pain again, it terrified me. "Just dinner," she said gently. "No pressure. You can tell me about Emily. I'll tell you about my cat. We'll eat overpriced pasta and pretend we're not two exhausted healthcare workers counting down to retirement." I laughed despite myself. "Okay, just dinner." We went to a small Italian place in Corona del Mar, talked for 3 hours. She told me about growing up in Oregon, her nursing school horror stories, her dream of opening a pediatric clinic in an underserved community. I told her about Emily, about med school, about my brother Michael's terrible dad jokes. I didn't tell her about Olivia. Not yet. But she knew, and she didn't push. At the end of the night, she hugged me, just a friendly hug, and said, "Thanks for trusting me with your time, Nathan." I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not love, not even attraction, really. Just possibility. We started seeing each other casually. Coffee dates, walks on the beach, one memorable evening where she came over and helped Emily build a terrifyingly complex Lego castle. Emily adored her immediately. "Is Claire your girlfriend?" Emily asked one night at bedtime. "I don't know yet, kiddo," I said honestly. "Would that be okay with you?" She thought about it. "Yeah, she's nice, and she's funny." "She is," I agreed. "Do you still love Mommy?" The question hit me harder than I expected. I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. "I loved the person I thought Mommy was," I said. "But that person wasn't real, so no, sweetheart, I don't love her anymore." Emily nodded slowly. "Do you think Mommy's sad?" "Probably," I said, "but sometimes people make choices that make them sad. And they have to live with those choices. Like consequences," Emily said. She'd learned that word in school. "Exactly like consequences." She hugged me tight. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Em. Always." In June, Olivia sent an email asking if we could meet to talk. In person, just the two of us. I debated for a week, asked Dr. Patel what he thought. He said it was my choice, but to consider what I hoped to gain from it. Finally, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop in Tustin, neutral territory, public place. She looked different, thinner, tired, older. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. She looked like a stranger. We sat across from each other. She ordered tea. I ordered black coffee. "Thank you for meeting me," she said quietly. I nodded, didn't speak. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "I know you probably don't want to hear it, but I need to say it. I'm sorry, Nathan, for all of it. The lying, the cheating, the money. I'm sorry. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no satisfaction, just emptiness. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay? You apologized. I heard you. Is there something else? She looked down at her tea. I wanted you to understand why I did it. I don't need to understand, I said. It doesn't matter. It matters to me, she said, voice cracking. I was lost, Nathan. You were always at work, always busy. I felt invisible in our marriage. Garrett made me feel seen. I almost laughed. So you stole $45,000 because you felt invisible? No, She stopped. Started again. I know that's not an excuse. I'm just trying to explain. Let me stop you, I said. I don't care why you did it. You made choices. You lied to me, to our daughter, to everyone. You created a fake life because your real one wasn't exciting enough. That's on you, not me, not my work schedule. You. She was crying now. I miss Emily so much. Then show up for your visitations, I said. Follow the court orders. Go to therapy. Rebuild her trust. That's the only thing that matters now. Do you think she'll ever forgive me? I considered lying, being kind. But I was done lying. I don't know. Maybe. Kids are more forgiving than adults, but you'll have to earn it. She wiped her eyes. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I stood up. No, I don't. But I don't need to forgive you to move forward with my life. That's the part you don't understand, Olivia. You're not the main character in my story anymore. You're just someone I used to know. I left her sitting there. I didn't look back. That night I tucked Emily into bed and felt lighter than I had in months. Now it's December again. A year since everything fell apart. Emily and I are decorating the tree in our new house, the one overlooking the ocean, with the big windows and the kitchen island where we make pancakes on Saturday mornings. This is better than last year, Daddy, Emily says, hanging a handmade ornament. I smile. Yeah, kiddo, it is. Olivia sees Emily twice a month, like clockwork. She completed her therapy, her parenting course. She got a better job, works at a local marketing firm now, entry level, but it's real. She's rebuilding, slowly. Garrett's still in Texas, as far as I know. Last I heard from Sarah, he tried to reach out to his sons. They didn't respond. Sarah and I meet for coffee every few weeks. We talk about our kids, about healing, about moving forward. She started dating someone, a high school teacher. Apparently, very patient and kind. I'm happy for her. Claire and I are still together. We're not rushing anything. She's met Emily a dozen times, comes over for dinner once a week, stays over sometimes when Emily's at Olivia's. We're figuring it out. I'm still cautious, still guarded, but I'm trying. Dr. Patel says that's progress. People ask me if I regret how I handled everything. The public exposure, the scorched earth approach, the coordinated takedown. Honestly, no, I don't. Could I have been quieter? Sure. Could I have handled it privately, behind closed doors, with dignity and discretion? Maybe. But quiet is what kept me blind for 10 years. Olivia didn't just cheat. She stole. She lied to our daughter. She built an entire false identity. She took a decade of my life and made it a mockery, and she would have kept going if I hadn't found that phone. So, no, I don't regret it. I regret trusting her in the first place. I regret ignoring the red flags. I regret being so focused on my career that I missed what was happening in my own home. But the revenge, that was necessary. Not for satisfaction, though I won't lie. There was satisfaction. It was necessary because it was the only way to protect Emily, to protect myself, to make sure Olivia faced real consequences. I don't hate her anymore. I don't really feel anything for her. And maybe that's the saddest part. She's just someone I used to know. Someone who shares custody of my daughter. Someone I'll have to interact with for the next 12 years until Emily's 18. But she's not my wife. She's not my partner. She's not someone I trust or love or even think about unless I have to. Emily asks about her sometimes. I tell her the age-appropriate version. Mommy made choices that hurt people. But it wasn't Emily's fault. That Mommy loves her, that I love her, that she's safe. I don't tell her about the hotel room. I don't tell her about the stolen money or the fake career or the 2 years of systematic deception. Someday when she's older, maybe she'll ask, and I'll tell her the truth, but not now. Now she's 7 years old. She likes soccer and art class, and her teacher, Mrs. Patterson. She has sleepovers with friends, builds elaborate Lego cities, asks impossible questions about space and dinosaurs and why adults are so weird. She's my whole world, and I'll never take that for granted again. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I'm harder now, more guarded, more skeptical. I look at relationships differently, at trust differently, at people differently. Maybe that's not healing. Maybe that's just survival. But it's honest. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew my own life. Turns out I was living in a stranger's house for 10 years, sleeping next to someone I'd never really met, building a life with someone who was building an entirely different life behind my back. But that house isn't haunted anymore. I left it behind, sold it, moved on, built something new. Emily's asleep in her room right now. I just checked on her. She's sprawled across her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals, breathing deep and even, safe, loved, protected. Claire texted me good night an hour ago. We're having brunch tomorrow, the three of us. Nothing serious, nothing heavy, just pancakes and laughter and normal. I'm standing in my kitchen looking out at the ocean, and for the first time in a year I feel something like peace. It's not perfect. I still have bad days, days where I spiral, where I question everything, where the thought of trusting another person feels impossible. Days where I look at Emily and worry about what this has done to her, how it's shaped her understanding of love and marriage and trust. But most days are good now. Most days I wake up and make coffee and help Emily get ready for school and go to work and come home and make dinner and read bedtime stories. Most days I feel like myself again. A different version of myself. A version that's been through fire and come out scarred but standing. The house isn't haunted anymore. I built something new, and that's enough.